Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga says she's confident the Matric Class of 2021 will do well in their exams. Learners are sitting for their first exam today. The English paper 1, and Motshekga was in Noordwijk Secondary School together with the Premier of Gauteng, David Makhura, and the MEC of Education in the province. For the latest, let's speak now to our reporter Tshegohaco Moagi, who is following the Basic Education Minister. Tshegohaco, a very good morning to you. So what did the Minister have to say as a way of encouraging the matriculants this year? They've had a torrid time. This is the class of 2011, by the way, Tshegohaco, which never really got to finish its curriculum. So talk to us about what the encouragement was from the Minister.
Well, good morning, Nkoli. So the Basic Education Minister really encouraging learners to focus on their studies and to ensure that, they do as best as they can this particular year as they are the Matric Class of 2021. As you've mentioned, they are the grade 11 class of 2020 that were unable to complete their curriculum due to COVID-19. But the Minister saying that, measures were put in place to ensure that these learners are able to cover as much as possible of the curriculum. But the Basic Education Department has often said that they have completed the curriculum and they are confident that these learners will be able to, do the best that they can in this particular year. But let's find out, Xoli, from the Gauteng Education Department as to what they have done to ensure that learners do extremely well in these matric exams. We are joined by Steve Mabona. He's the spokesperson for the Gauteng Education Department. Steve, thank you so much for your time. Let's start off with measures that were put in place by the Gauteng Department of Education to ensure that learners, they cover their curriculum and that they do well in these exams.
Well, we are indebted to parents, SGB, and our employees, at schools, because at some point they came with the initiative of making sure that after school the learners don't go home. They probably rest for an hour or so and then continue. Some were leaving very late. That's why I'm saying we're indebted to our educators who volunteered their time. They were at schools, around 5 o'clock, they will knock off. And the weekends as well. They will have Saturday and, Sunday classes. To a certain extent, when we had holidays, they didn't go to holidays. They had to come and be with our children and, make sure that they enhance what they would have lost in their curriculum in their grade 11. So, because they had to be prepared for this one. That their paper is 2 years before they sit. So we had to make sure that at least we assist them. Those that could not go to different centers that we've identified, we managed to take them to our schools. That our township schools have smart boards. We connected, remotely with a studio where we'll have an educator that was, connecting to all our schools that have been identified. You just click the smart board and then you can access the educator. So we've been doing that on any time that we found so that we can utilize. So we can say that we've done so much to make sure that we assist the class of 2021, bearing in mind that they lost so much in their grade 11. Because remember, when you are in the further education phase, you started grade 10, already you are on an exit path. So if you missed one leg of education there, you might be affected. So that's why we felt that we were concerned. Let's enhance them.
Now, Steve, we do know that, every time this year comes, there are anxieties and concerns around the leakage of the matric exam paper or any form of irregularity. What measures has the Gauteng Education Department put in place to ensure that this does not happen again like we saw last year?
Look, because bear in mind that we print so much scripts, over 2 million in our warehouse, so we had to make sure that the human element it's monitored very closely. The technology that we use to print and when are we printing, we have to be mindful of all of those. But we can share more in terms of the security on what is it that we've done. But we've enhanced it so much that we are satisfied that we would not have any leak. And the transportation thereof of papers from one point to the other as well, starting very early, making sure that we cut them like as money. We don't want to compromise anything. The integrity of this examination must be kept, intact. So that's why we would not want to compromise. So we are quite sure that we're not going to have any leak, but also want to discourage people from leaking papers and those that will want them to access them. Learners must know that you stand a chance of not being allowed to come back into the system for 3 years. You stand an unfortunate chance of being arrested if you are reported to the police. So it's quite tricky. They need to be mindful of that and just focus on what they can deliver in terms of what they would have learned and make sure that they do well.
All right, thank you so much, Steve Mabona. He's the Gauteng Education spokesperson, just giving us details about measures put in place to ensure that there isn't a leakage this year, Xoli, but also just to mention that there are over 897,000 matric learners sitting for the exams this year for the National Senior Certificate, and the biggest number that the Department of Basic Education has seen yet, and it just goes over 897,000. So it's quite a huge number that they'll be administering these exams to this year. Xoli?
Tshegohaco Moagi, thank you very much for that update. As you see our colleagues lining up there, let's go to KZN, and this is where the province has recorded over 200,000 candidates who are sitting for the National Senior Certificate examinations today. This is the largest number of candidates the province has had to administer in the last 6 years. Let's speak now to Newzroom Afrika's Nkosikhona Duma, who is following the story in KZN. Nkosikhona, good morning to you. What is the state of readiness in KZN?
Good morning, Xoli Ngambi. Well, according to education officials here in KwaZulu-Natal, despite the challenges that they've had to face, with recent unrest, challenges also posed by COVID-19, issues of arson attacks at various schools, the KwaZulu-Natal Education Department really has the biggest education system in the country, because in fact, Xoli, the KZN Education Department is actually bigger than some national departments. The Education MEC for here in KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Mweli Masilela, is visiting the Inhlanipo High School in KwaMashu, and he has said that, despite the challenges, they will be ready, to conduct successful matric examinations in 2021. And he's joining me live now, Xoli, to elaborate more on this. You are confident despite the challenges. Why?
Well, we've been hard at work to prepare for this day and for the duration of the examinations. We started preparation as early as last year to make sure that we put up systems in place, not only for the period of examinations, but to prepare learners towards this particular period. As you have correctly said, that we have been encountering a number of challenges, COVID-19 disrupting teaching and learning, the civil unrest that we experienced in July actually resulted in us having to cancel all the winter classes that we normally run for matriculants. So we had some time lost even during that particular period. But working hard with our educators, we were able to recover the ground lost. That was made possible by running even extra classes, weekend classes, and the commitment of the educators and the learners themselves to make sure that by the time of the examinations, they are all prepared. We are confident that we are going to score higher this time again compared to last year because of the work that has been done in preparation for these learners. We developed what we call the 12-point plan, which we started rolling out aggressively around the mid-July, immediately after we reopened our school. We were very aggressive in implementing that plan, which focused on a number of weak areas, but also where we were strong, we had to build up on those areas to make sure that we score a higher percentage as the province of KwaZulu-Natal. So as we begin today, all our centers, 1,700 of them, have opened. All learners have presented themselves. Actually, all of them have started writing as we speak. We're going to monitor each and every day until the last day of exams. I will be moving to other regions in the province, but also my colleagues in the executives and in the legislature are also all over to make sure that they monitor the examinations. We have over 6,000 invigilators, trained invigilators, which are making sure also that there's nothing that goes wrong insofar as these examinations are concerned.
Well, Cody, that was the Education MEC here in KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Mweli Masilela, elaborating on the state of readiness. He's saying that ahead of today's commencement of examinations, they have, launched winter classes, and despite challenges that were imposed even by the recent unrest, they were able to, as soon as they were able to relaunch those particular classes. Cody, I'll tell you that in KwaZulu-Natal, over 1,075 examination centers have been set up for this cohort of learners. There's the MEC saying that over 6,000 trained invigilators will be monitoring these particular examinations, and it is against that backdrop that is confident that this year's examinations will be a success in KwaZulu-Natal.
Nkosikhona Duma, thank you very much. Let's move to Mpumalanga now, and still on the matric story. The education MEC in that province, Bonagele Majuba, is at Skihla Secondary School. This is in the area of Mashishing, monitoring the first day of matric examinations. More than 60,000 learners will sit for the exams in the province this year. Newzroom Afrika's Mweli Masilela is monitoring developments there. Mweli, very good morning to you. This is a province that saw racial tensions flaring up earlier this year. How are things going there?
Good morning, Koli. The MEC has just concluded his visit to some of the examination centers at the school, and from his side, it's all systems go. They've done everything to make sure that the learners, as well as those who will be invigilating here, are ready for the examinations. But one issue that is of concern, as we have highlighted, the issue of racial tensions at some schools. Well, the MEC said that working with the Premier of the province, they have done everything necessary to ensure that there is stability in some of those schools. We know that there was a school in Emalahleni, Witbank Technical High School, as well as another school in Bushbuck Ridge, where we saw some of those bullying incidents. But according to the MEC, now everything is addressed, and learners are ready to write their examinations. But also, clearly, another concern is the issue of protests in the province. We know that different areas, especially in Pinar, Kanyamazane and Tshegohaco South, there have been protests recently. Some of those people saying that they are calling for the former MEC of Agriculture to be reinstated. Remember that story after he was released on 20,000 rand bail. So that's another concern. But the MEC said on that note they are working with law enforcement agencies to ensure that those examinations are not disturbed. But looking into some of the learners we spoke to here, they are excited. They are saying that they are prepared, considering the fact that government or the Department of Education in the province has been assisting them with a number of programs, radio, phone-in programs, as well as ensuring that they do have access to previous examinations. And also in those radio programs, there was that initiative called Dial a Tutor. So the learners were able to call and speak to subject specialists to get as much information as possible. So those learners are excited, and they're saying that, well, they are optimistic that after these examinations are done, they'll get the best results that will enable them to go to tertiary institutions to further their studies.
Mweli Masilela, let's leave it there for the moment. Still ahead, we are going to continue with our matric exam coverage, and in a moment we'll be live in Limpopo with our reporter Pelane Phakgadi. You're watching Newsfeed AM. Let's continue the coverage on the matric exams. Limpopo MEC for Education, Mweli Masilela, is monitoring the start of the 2021 National Senior Certificate in Rawele Technical High School. This is in Mapela. Now, over 106,000 full-time and almost 36,000 part-time candidates will be sitting for their exams in the 1,609 examination centers across the province. And this is where we find Newzroom Afrika's Pelane Phakgadi, who is at the technical school there. Pelane, good morning to you. How's the situation in Limpopo?
Koli, I may have struggled to hear you a little bit there in your introduction, but we are in Rawela in Mokopane at this particular stage. And of course, as you rightfully put it, quite a number of matriculants are currently writing their examinations, their first, of course, for this academic year, 2021. And here in Mapela, the technical high school that we're in, the first cohort that they're writing the metric examination, because it's a new school, so this is the first class of grade 12. But joining me now is the MEC for Education in Limpopo, Polibushielo. 68.2% is the amount that you got last year. That was a 5% decline. Work done by the province to try and mitigate that, and even maybe take a step further beyond the 5% that you've lost, and maybe gain some more percentage.
Yeah, this time at least we know what COVID is all about, unlike last year when we have to completely close the schools. So the learners have been doing morning and afternoon sessions in the school. They said even during the weekend and at night they come, and the parents are very supportive coming here to help them. But also we've been having radio lessons and also online, which are free to help the learners to access previous news question papers. So we've been working very, very hard. Kagiso Trust have come in also last week. They took all the Sekhukhune district learners to camp, and I addressed them, about 600 of them, and I can say they are very ready. So we've done everything we could to assist the learners.
Talk to us about the 7 schools that registered 0% last year. I'm sure that was a cause for concern for the department in the province. What was work done to try and mitigate that kind of work that was done, poor work done by the schools?
Remember, the schools that got 0% is because of the numbers. The numbers are too low, and we have to match them with the schools that are nearby. So other people were refusing because the names of the school was named after your grandfather, and then it was not even feasible for us to bring more teachers because of the numbers. So we have matched them to the nearest schools, and also they are going through the same classes, morning classes, afternoon classes, access from radio, TV, and also from the website of the department, and their teachers are able there to assist them to be able to do their best.
In 30 seconds, MEC, some of the people who are in the employ of the IEC are teachers. Will that be an impact on the examinations in this particular term?
No, we don't allow grade 12 teachers to go for IEC. They are all at school monitoring the examination.
MEC Polibushielo is the Education MEC here in Limpopo. All systems goes, we are told, and the aim is to reach beyond the amount that they reached last year. That is about 68.2%, so that that will in itself be able to be an improvement as far as matric performance is concerned here in the province.
Pelane Phakgadi, thank you very much for that update.